Hi, I'm Sharon Calvino, and I wanted to make a video just for you to tell you a little bit about what a speech-language pathologist is and how we help with the voice, and a little bit about how we anatomically and physiologically can produce sound to talk. And then I want to do a little voice care quiz and talk about how we can take care of our voice. So let's get started. I am in graduate school. I'm graduating very soon and will be a speech language pathologist. And that's another word for speech therapist. And you probably know that speech therapists help kids or anyone who can't say certain sounds like the R, or I couldn't say the S. I had a lisp, and so I went to speech therapy to work on that. Speech therapists also help with a lot of other things like stuttering and helping people to learn language and literacy. And we help with swallowing, because swallowing uses all the muscles and parts of the body that we use for speech. So we also work with voice disorders, which is when someone's voice sounds hoarse or gravelly or hypernasal or hyponasal, different things with the voice, or can't talk at all. So those are some of the things that a speech language pathologist does. So we help people with the voice. And like I said, I used to be very hypernasal, and I have a family member who has something called muscle tension dysphonia. And that means his vocal cords are really tight, and his muscles hold them open a little bit too much, and they can't completely close. So his voice sounds kind of breathy, a little bit harsh sometimes, and we can work on that. So now I'm going to show you a model that I made of the respiratory, a little bit of the respiratory and phonatory system that helps us to be able to speak. You've probably made a model of something for school before, and mine is a little, it's definitely homemade, but you can laugh, but maybe it'll help us to understand speech a little bit better. So here we go. I'm going to explain how we can say something that we want to say. So let's say I want to say, I need a cupcake, because, that's the heartfelt desire of my heart. I need to communicate this sometimes. And if I want to do that, what does my body need to do? So here we go. Here is my model. I used lots of plastic cups and things around the kitchen. So here we go. I would like to say my message, but first I need to engage this muscle down here. This is the diaphragm, and it is a muscle right below your lungs, and it needs to move downward. So it sits right here at this hole, right under your lungs, where your ribs kind of come together like this. But when you need to breathe, it goes down so your lungs can have more space to fill up. And so that diaphragm goes down, the lungs fill up. Inside of my lungs, you can see that I have some forks in there, and those are like part of the trachea where they branch off, and there's little air sacs at the bottom, lots of air sacs at the bottom of your lungs. So you want to get a deep breath from the bottom so that all those air sacs fill up at the bottom of your lungs. Then the air goes up this white tube, the trachea, and here the trachea is coming up, and then the air is going to enter your larynx. This is your larynx, a very important word to remember. The voice box is your larynx. It's composed of several cartilages and also a lot of muscles that I couldn't put on here. But the cricoid cartilage, the thyroid cartilage, the thyroid membrane, and then there's this bone up here called the hyoid bone. It's the only bone in the body that's not connected to other bones. It's just floating up there, holding onto this membrane. and connect, so the air comes up here, and then I'm going to show you what happens in the vocal folds if I can. Here we go. So the vocal folds are in here. So you can see this opening. It has a special name, and you need to know that name of that opening. It's called the glottis, that hole in the middle. The air comes up there and moves quickly through the vocal folds, which causes there to be a pressure difference, and the vocal folds close underneath. And I can't move these, but they close and open very, very, very rapidly. About 110 times per second for a man with a lower pitch voice, about 200 times per second for a woman with a little higher pitch, and about 300 times per second for a child with a very high pitched voice. So those vocal folds are working hard every single second that you're speaking and making noise as the air comes through them. And something you may or may not need to know, but there's two main muscles of the vocal folds. The bigger one here is the thyromuscularis, and it helps to relax and open the vocal folds. And then there's the thyrovocalis muscle that helps to lengthen and adduct, bring together the vocal folds. And then these little things right here are cartilages called the arytenoid cartilages, and a bunch of muscles pull on these to help to move these vocal folds all around. So, and the vocal folds are attached to the thoracic cartilage, which is this right here. The vocal folds are attached to that. Now, so the air comes through that glottis and up through your mouth, and that air, as your mouth and your lips and your tongue and your soft palate and your teeth and your jaw and everything works together and resonates around it in that mouth, it makes sound, and you get to say your important message. So that's pretty great. Now I want to explain something else that's important. This right here is attached to the hyoid bone, and when the hyoid bone elevates, the epiglottis comes down. Now, why does it need to come down? It needs to come down when you're eating. So I have some fries here, and just say I want to eat a fry. Well, that fry is going to go through my mouth, and then my teeth and saliva are and my tongue are going to move it all around and make a bolus, and that little ball of food is going to come on down through your pharynx, which is opening right behind here for food, and then it could go through your vocal cords and go right through there, and then you would start choking. I'm sure we've all had this happen before. And then if it goes down, just say it goes down, it goes into the lung. It can get in the lungs, be hard to breathe, it can grow bacteria, you can get pneumonia. It's very not healthy. And so we don't want the food to go down there. So instead, the epiglottis comes up and covers the vocal folds and becomes like a little slide, where instead the food can come on down this pipe behind the larynx. And the name of this pipe is called, you probably know, the esophagus. And that fry can just go on down on its merry way to the stomach and pass over the vocal folds.